This is Marie from Underground Crafter, and this video is sponsored by All Free Crochet. Thank you so much to the folks at Denise Crochet and Knitting for providing the Tunisian crochet hooks. In this video I'm going to share several different ways to change color with Tunisian crochet. So this is a swatch made with Tunisian simple stitch, and this is a swatch, the same number of stitches, that shows a couple of different ways that you can change colors, and I'm going to share those with you in a video. So the first way is the one that's showed here, which is a type of stripe that has two colors in it. The way that you would change colors for that is you would work your stitch until you are at the end of a row. And as you know, in Tunisian crochet, you work forward to add all the loops on, and then you work the loops off. So when you're ready to work the loops off, you would take your second color, and I usually prefer to start with a slip knot. I think it's just a little bit easier than using the yarn totally loose. So you'll put a slip knot on the hook, and then you're going to pull this slip knot through one loop as if you were doing a chain one. So you're going to pull it through, and now the rest of the way across you're going to take your new color and you're going to yarn over and draw through two loops all the way across. What you can see is happening is that the vertical loops are in the old color, the original color, and when you work your way across on the horizontal edge, that's in the new color. So you get this kind of two-toned stripe, and you're going to continue to work across all the way. When you get to the end of the row, we're actually going to keep the same new color. In Tunisian crochet, you're always going to skip that loop that's right underneath the loop on the hook, and then we're going to work our Tunisian simple stitch all the way across. So again, that's going to be insert your hook under the vertical bar, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And we're going to do that all the way across. And as you can see, what's happening is now our next set of loops are in the new color. And what's going to happen is, if you're using this method, I would recommend that what you actually do is change your color kind of every second pass. So you change on the return row one way and then pick it up on the return row the next way. And this is why, because your yarn will actually be right there waiting for you. So it's a lot easier to work with. So in the last stitch, I like to go into the kind of two loops there, so it's a little bit straighter of an edge. Don't worry about this little strand, you can weave that in later. Okay, so now I have all the loops in the new color, and my old color of yarn is still waiting there for me, so as long as I can find it. So I'm just going to pick up the old color of yarn. When you do this, don't pull it too tight because you don't want to pucker this edge. You also don't want to leave it crazy loose, like not so loose that you're going to end up with this random string hanging off, but just a little bit of slack. And then you're going to yarn over through one loop, also known as a chain one, and then yarn over through two loops all the way across. And that's going to create this type of color that I showed you, which is sort of like a two-toned stripe. And this is really a fun way to add color to Tunisian crochet projects without too much work, and it's a unique kind of way of changing colors that really you can only do with Tunisian crochet. So again, what you have here is you have the vertical bar on the lower part of the stripe are in the old color, and on the upper part they're in the new color, and then in between you have the horizontal bar is in the new color, and then up here it's in the old color. So it's kind of like a two-tone stripe, and here you can sort of see what it looks like filled in. So that's pretty fun. Okay, so now we're going to do this solid stripe, and the solid stripe is actually worked the opposite way. It's worked when you are finishing the return row, not starting it. So I am working off my two loops here where I yarn over and go through two loops on my return row. And then when I have two loops left, I'm going to take my new color, and I'm going to use that new color to pull through the last 2 loops on the hook. You could do the same thing as I did before. You could start with a slip knot if you don't want this loop to get too loose. Sometimes when you're changing colors, that first loop is too loose, so making it a slip knot makes it a little bit tighter. So here it is as a slip knot, and then I'm just going to pull it through these last 2 loops. So now you can see that my row that I just worked is all in the old color, and the new row is going to be all in the new color. So I'm just going to work across as I was doing it with a regular Tunisian simple stitch. So again, I'm always going to skip the loop right underneath the loop on the hook, and then under the next vertical bar I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop all the way across. So with this technique where you've changed color at the end of the return row or just before you start the forward row of Tunisian crochet, you're going to create a solid stripe all the way across. So it's not going to be like the other one where I'm seeing 2 different colors on the same row. I'm just going to see this new color all the way across. And I would recommend the same thing in terms of when to change colors to keep you from having to weave in a lot of ends. So now I'm going to do my chain 1 and go through 1 loop, and then yarn over and go through 2 loops all the way across. For this particular solid stripe, and you can see it's all the new color all the way across here, I would just keep changing colors on this side. And the reason why is because the yarn, the other color of yarn, is going to be waiting for me here. So here you go. So the same thing, if you were going to continue these solid stripes, you'd wait until you had 2 loops left, and then you'd yarn over in the new color and draw it through both loops, and that's how you're going to end up with these solid stripes. Now I want to show you about changing colors in between rows like this. So a lot of people use Tunisian crochet to do graphed patterns because it's almost like a piece of graph paper. It's like every stitch is a little square on a grid. So the way to do that, if you had to change a color in the middle of the row, and this is a little bit trickier because you end up with something on the back called floats. And floats are basically the yarn that you're not using being carried across. For your first color changing project, I definitely recommend something that has a permanent right side where it doesn't matter if your floats are a little bit sloppy on the back, because it is going to take you some time to get comfortable making the floats. So again, let's say I had crocheted, I want to change color every 5th stitch. So I would do, counts as your first stitch, so 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I'm going to change color in the next stitch when I do the yarn over. So again, it may be a little bit easier to use your slip knot here, but also, and actually don't put it on yet until you insert your hook into this under the stitch, right under the next vertical bar. Make sure you're choosing the right end after you do this, because I just had to edit out how I crocheted along with the short edge for quite a while. So that goes through 1 loop, and we're going to do 5 in this color too. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we have 5 in the new color, and let's say we wanted to change back to the old color. Well, we don't actually cut it off. We can take this old color and gently string it across so that we can carry it as a float. If you have a lot of color changes, you can also use what's called bobbins. So you can have short amounts of yarn and little balls that you have on each side. For this little color change, it's not really necessary, but if that's the case, you don't have to carry floats, because you could have a separate of the lighter color for this side and a separate one for that side. But if you're going to do the float, you're just going to take the new color, the old color that you're switching back to, and you want to make sure you're not pulling it too tight across. You don't want to make it crazy loose like this, because then you're going to end up with a big loop hanging off the end, but just a little bit there. And then we're going to drop the new color. We just don't need that right now. And we're going to continue working across, but we're going to yarn over with the old color that we're returning back to. Now when you change colors like this, you have to change them on the way back too, otherwise you're going to end up with this kind of stripe. And usually if you're working from a chart, you're looking for more of a solid stripe. So again, here you would say 1, You would go through the 5 stitches here, and then your yarn should be there because you just finished using it in that same spot. So you're going to pick up the second color. And even though the loop has one loop in the old color and one loop in the new color, don't worry about that because that's actually how it's supposed to be. So you yarn over and go through 2 loops, and you can see that it kept this set of stitches in the light color and this set of stitches in the dark color. And then when you get to the next color, you're going to change again, and you're going to have to bring a float back if you're not using a bobbin. So again, with graphing patterns with Tunisian crochet, what I recommend is that for your first set of patterns, you do something that maybe like a pillow, where the front side, the back of the front side is going to be covered and no one's going to ever look at it, so it's okay if your floats are not perfect. And then you'll get comfortable with them. The other thing with floats is you can't just indefinitely float the yarn, right? So if you had to do a 20 stitch block in one color, you wouldn't want to have a string 20 stitches long. You know, maybe 5 is probably the maximum. So you can see that by doing that, you were able to change the colors and make kind of a little box, sort of like this. So the fourth way that you can do this is kind of like cross stitch. So you're going to start with a yarn needle that's threaded with the color you want to work with. And you're going to treat this flat background of Tunisian simple stitch a little bit like a graph paper. And wherever you'd like to work the color, you're going to work a cross stitch. So I'm going to start with this square here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the upper left corner. I'm going to bring the yarn from the back to the front, and then I'm going to go to the lower right corner and I'm going to bring the yarn from the front down to the back, and then I'm going to bring it up to the upper right corner from the back to the front, and then back down across to the lower left corner, and that will be going down from the front. And you see you make a little X, like a little cross stitching X. And so any stitch that you'd like to have in the new color, you can cover it with cross stitch. So that's another method that you can use to change color in Tunisian crochet. This one is a little bit more time consuming, but it has kind of a cute look, and if you also like embroidery and cross stitch, it's pretty fun. And you don't want to pull super hard with the yarn because, again, just like with the floats, anytime you're tugging the yarn too hard, you're going to end up puckering your work. So you can make little cross stitches all the way across. So those are 4 different ways to change colors with Tunisian crochet. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please let me know. Have a great day.